Now, on this North Korea thing, stop me if you've heard the same thing before. Yet another administration bemoaning the fact that the North Koreans are sort of pushing the envelope here and pushing our buttons. We tend not to respond in the way you think we would with our bellicose talk. Is that about to change? Well, to the former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations who thinks now is the time. John Bolton with us. John, you know, you see this, of course, and you go through, we were going through some of the headlines in the past with various administrations of both parties. They talk tough on this, but there's very little they end up doing. I mean, in the case of sanctions, severe, sometimes very punitive sanctions, they don't seem to do the trick. So what will?
Well, the real question is whether President Trump is going to respond differently than other presidents. Watching Nikki Haley in the Security Council today, she gave a very strong, very tough statement, very appropriate. I remember another July the 5th in 2006. I was in the Security Council, too, the day after North Korea had broken a 7-year moratorium on launch testing. And had launched a barrage of missiles. And it ended up the Bush administration followed a policy similar to what the Clinton administration had done. So the real question here is not, are we outraged at what North Korea has done? Of course we are. So is China, so is Russia, so is everybody. So what? Will Trump follow through on what Nikki Haley said, or at least implied, and really do substantial restrictions on trade with China and China's trade with the United States? That's what remains to be seen.
Well, we do know already that the president has looked to drop the sanctions on at least 2 Chinese financial entities, banks for lack of a better term, that do business with North Korea and help fund them, and might be a big reason why business dealings between the Chinese and the North Koreans have increased at least 20% since last year at this time. So he seems to be risking going after China, even if it boomerangs on us. The fear has always been under prior administrations, you don't want to go too far on China because they own a lot of our debt, they could sell our debt, interest rate could soar, and we're always on defense. This seems to be his way of saying not anymore.
Well, I think the other administrations have fallen for the line about China's holding America debt. You know the old saying, if you owe the bank $10,000, you've got a problem. If you owe the bank $1 million, the bank has a problem.
I think Donald Trump came up with that, actually.
That could well be. That's China's problem, too.
Yeah.
Let me just say, these targeted sanctions against institutions and individuals, fine, but nobody should be under any illusion they have a real impact, because if you sanction the ABC Corporation, the next day, the XYZ Corporation appears doing exactly the same business.
But what if you up the sort of the sanction ante against China? I mean, you make it clear, as the president seemed to in his latest tweet, that we tried. We kind of took the Chinese at their word. They were going to try to get handle of this problem. For whatever reason, they couldn't or didn't. So now he seems to be open to taking much more punitive actions. What should they be? What does John Bolton think they should be?
They've got to be sweeping. So if we believe that China is violating the Security Council sanctions or turning a blind eye while others do, how about a sanction that says no Chinese financial institution can do business in the United States? Unless you have a tough, sweeping, comprehensive set of sanctions, the Chinese will double-talk us again, as they have for 25 years. Our attention span is notoriously short, and this is how North Korea has progressed to the point we are now over the last 25 years.